Yeah, possibly. I think certainly I felt the expectation level from the outside go up. We spend, I think, 200 million or so. I think that's fairly common practice at the moment with certain big clubs. But at that time, people stood up and take notice, and I felt that. But I think probably from a purely coaching point of view, I think our numbers are all still pretty good. And I left the club, we were ninth, I think, with 5 points outside.
So how much did that hurt at that time?
Oh, it hurt a lot because, I still felt like that we were working towards something. And what had happened for sure is that bringing in these players had changed the aspect. So from being a pretty set on, we were 4-3-3, we played 3 at the back at times in my first season. We got some great results. Tottenham away, back 3 we won. Went to Arsenal, won. Tottenham at home, won with the back 3. 4-3-3 was probably our go-to. And when we changed and we brought players in, I had different problems, coaching problems. Okay, what's going to get the best out of Timo Werner? Coming into us, is he a 9? We've still got Tammy Abraham and Oli Giroud, Kai Havertz. What is his best position? And there were issues I knew, and it was a club recruitment policy. Some players I wanted. Ben Chilwell was big for me.
Can I just ask you, because it always fascinates me that when you say you're then trying to find, okay, what do we do with these players? You've paid money for them. There's probably pressures from above because a lot of money's being spent. But before these players come in, how much, and I know every club's different, what would your role there be at Chelsea in terms of going, OK, I want him to play here? Or are the club saying, listen, we're providing you with a great young player like Kai Havertz, and it's up to you as a coach to find a way to make this work?
If I'm honest, in my situation, it was a mixture of that. Certain players I would be very keen to bring in, and we did collaborate. We work at the time with Marino. Obviously, Roman Abramovich was not present, but he was. You knew he was the overseeing power. I think I quite appreciated that. I never heard from him, but it was never a problem for me. But there were certain players that were more brought in as a club thing, and you have to try and integrate them. That's how I saw it. How I saw it. But it certainly gave me, from the system that we've been playing in year one, it definitely gave me those things which were quite pivotal. Now, I think that was the early part of the second season. We then got into a groove where we were playing really well. I think we went up something like 17 unbeaten up until December. And I felt like we were sort of overcoming some of those early tweaks. The problem came for me, I think, probably in mid-December. We went to Everton and lost. And then we went to Wolves 3 or 4 days later and lost. And whether I should have been surprised or not, but I was surprised about how quickly the feeling turned around it in terms of how secure I felt with the club. And that
transmitted by anybody to you, or was that just your own feeling?
No, it was sort of transmitted. I think when I talk about it, I'm sort of talking about a bit of rumour and a bit of feeling. So I don't want to be to lean too much on that. And it's very sort of old news for me. But at the same time, I think after that period, we then got a couple of results, and then we lost to Arsenal on Boxing Day. And our position in the table had physically changed. We dropped down from being second, I think, to about 5th or 6th. Now, where I'd felt that we'd moved on a lot in the first year by getting into the Champions League, I know for a fact that the expectations now, we must get better than that. And I didn't think it was going to be that simple. And it didn't turn out to be that simple in League. I felt there was still a lot of work to do. And in that difficult period, I lost my job. And, for me, that's part of my journey, we want to call it, as a manager. And then obviously when the club go on to win the Champions League, you have to hold your hands up and go, fair play, and managers take them to that. It's a huge accolade to do that. But I still look back on my time there with pride in terms of my prints are slightly on that phase. And as we said earlier, with recruitment now and how players have left Chelsea, I thought that would have lasted a lot longer, but it hasn't. But at that period when I come out of it, I can look back on that first season and parts of the second season and be very happy with it in terms of I'm proud of what I did there to a degree.
It was interesting. We were discussing this earlier. We built a list actually of the sort of the young players that left Chelsea in recent times, but that it felt like you were building something with this group, most of whom had come through the academy. 1 or 2 had been acquired, but these, bar Reece James, have all now departed the club. And we were asking whether you were surprised by that, or whether you had felt really that this was a group that could stick together for quite a long time.
I think if you look across that list, I'm slightly surprised by it. At that time, I would have expected more players to stay longer. I think every player in there has a different story, and sometimes you read between the lines. Fikayo Tomori, I wanted to keep, but at the same time, I had 5 centre-backs, and he was in and out of the team. He got frustrated, he wants to leave. That happens with young players. But within that, I did think that maybe some of the players would stay. But I think in the modern world, we are working with the ownerships of clubs, and the sporting directors certainly are not seeing maybe academy players with maybe what I saw, and maybe what Chelsea fans, and I'm talking about fans mainly that come to Stamford Bridge, I think they feel a real connection with players that come through. And I thought that was a real strength at this time. Even as I left the club, I thought, well, you can see players there that are going to be there for a number of years. And maybe they've lost that to a degree. We're talking about Connor, speaking to him 20 minutes ago. And I think that's a nice thing. If I'm a fan, I like seeing a boy that's come through. It's not the be-all and end-all. You need good players, you need to succeed. But, at that point, I felt more players would have stayed the course.